Hi, this is Teacher Bunny. I'd like to congratulate every one of you for making it this far. This will serve as your final lesson in creative writing, and with this, I hope that I will be able to guide you in crafting scenes for your one-act play. Before that, I would like to show you two sample texts, and I would like you to be able to tell how these two texts are the same and how they are different. Here's your first sample text. Take a look at it. You don't need to read word for word. Just have a general idea of what it looks like, and then you will compare it to the next one that I'll be showing you. Now here's your second sample text. Try to see how it is the same with the first sample text and at the same time how it is also different. Take a good look. Let's have a look at your first sample text once again. Alright, moving on. And here's another view of your second sample text. Right? I suppose you are ready to proceed to the next part of this activity, which is, of course, to tell me what are the similarities and differences between the two sample texts. Right, so here's a much better view, if you know what I mean. So what answers have you come up with? I hope you have come up with some or all of this. So the two sample texts are actually referring to the same scene, just written in different ways. They both contain dialogue or words that are expressed by a character in the story or the drama. They both tell a story, which is actually basically what drama and fiction is about. It's a story of life. Right. So, as far as the differences go, one is written in sentences and paragraphs, and the other is written by lines that are supposed to be recited by your actors. Then, here, of course, is another one. One is intended to be acted out, while the other is just for plain reading enjoyment. So, I hope you got all that. So, let's proceed. All right, here's your session goal. At the end of this video lesson, I would expect you to write at least one scene for a one-act play, applying the various elements, techniques, and literary devices that you have learned from your earlier modules. All right, let's switch over to this side. Before we proceed further, I'd like you to answer this short arranging activity. So all you need to do is to number the statements from 1 to 5 depending on where you think the statement belongs to the order. So if it's the first thing that is needed to be done, then number it 1. And if it's the last, then you number it 5. All right? So just write your answers in your notebooks for now. We will check them at the end of the video lesson. Since you're being asked to write a scene for a one-act play, perhaps it is only fitting that we have an understanding of its concept. Now, a scene is actual action that occurs in a single setting in a specific time in a play. Action refers to an event that happens as part of the whole story. Now, it also points out that there should be a single setting, meaning to say that if you transfer the location of your story or your play, it already becomes a different scene. Now, what happens in the morning is a different scene to what happens later in the evening. Also, a scene commences as soon as the actors enter the stage and ends when the actors go out the stage, signaling the end of the action. At this point, I'd like to talk about the process of writing your scene for your one-act play. For this activity, I'd like you to follow these 5 steps. The first one is to select a subject to be covered. Now, I would like to point out here that I mean a single subject. Do not unnecessarily complicate your scene by making it about several subjects all at once. If the scene is about an argument on whose idol is prettier, then it should be about that. If the scene is around a rumor that we will have face-to-face classes in April, then don't make it about who became virtual couples during the pandemic. The second one is that the plot should be simple and there should be a structure. Now, by simple, we mean that do not make your character undergo several conflicts all at once. Come on, be a nicer playwright. By structure, we mean that your scene should have a clear beginning, middle, and end. So a scene is like a little story within your big story. For the third step, create the character sketch before bringing them to life. So a character sketch is something you do with your character, which gives an idea to the audience if the character is a good guy or a bad guy, a humble person or an arrogant person, and all other traits that make a drama more interesting. Now, the next one is to infuse the setting of the story. I would explain this by saying that there are certain aspects that are characteristic of the place that you had chosen as your setting. In Kalinga and Ifugao, for instance, we the men like to chew mama, or uh, yes, even inside the classrooms, it is actually a problem in schools because the boys spit mama everywhere. And at one time, there were ordinances that actually prohibit doing that. But well, it's part of the culture. Now, there are also words or local words that characterize a place. Like having grown up in Baguio City, they like to add ngai and ya at the end of their uh, statements, like uh, nagpintas ngai and awan ya. Okay, I'm sure you get the general idea. And then, of course, you include stage directions after writing the dialogue. Now, that is a topic that we're going to be talking about in a short while. It's time to review what you have learned so far in your modules for drama. Now, what do you call this? Yes, that's right. They're called dialogues. All right. Do you notice anything different this time? Oh, yes, there are italicized words inside parentheses. Let's proceed. Now, what are those highlighted texts? Very good. They're called stage direction. Before we proceed further, I would like to clarify one point here. When do we say play and when do we say drama? Now, while the two concepts are definitely related to each other, we say play when we're referring to the text or the writing, the literature part of it. And we say drama when we talk about the overall performance, which already involves, of course, acting among many things, and of course the audience as well, right? So basically, a play consists of two things, among other things, of course. The first one is dialogue. These are the words that you want your actors to say during their performance. Then, of course, there is the stage direction or the instructions to your actors. They can, of course, read that when they are presented with the play. So, what are examples of stage direction? So, first you have enter right, exit left. Then, of course, you have uh, what they're supposed to do before delivering a line, like scratches the head, rubs chin, right? Here, a reaction to something that a character does or says during a play, such as this, looks at Greta fiercely for a few seconds. Then uh, something that tells your actor how the line should be delivered, like shouting at the top of his voice. So when you look at stage directions, they're always in parentheses, and to help spot them immediately, they're usually written in italics. Alright, it's time for your first writing practice. Now for this, I would like you to write a 6-line dialogue, just 6 lines, with 2 characters, include stage directions, and use any one of the following as your setting. Just one, right? Just one 6-line dialogue. So the first possible setting is the marketplace, or you can also choose the school canteen. Maybe you'd like to write a scene in the library. You can, of course, also use the school gate or the sidewalk or maybe the park. All right, get started. Start writing now. Hey, we're back. I hope you found that last writing task stimulating. We'll have 2 more writing tasks by the end of this video. Now, before we proceed to the second writing task, I would like us to review about the plot of a one-act play. Since a one-act play is usually done in as few as 1 scene to 3 scenes, the plot should be simple and straightforward. By this we mean that first, we avoid unnecessary complications. Now, we have discussed this already a while ago. Let's not put too many problems for our main character to solve or add too many conflicts that it is already impossible to remember what the original conflict was. Also, choose a familiar setting. This lends believability in a story. And of course, it is easier for the audience to relate when the setting is familiar. Then also, the problem should be easy to relate with. Do not try to put an impossible problem or something out of this world just to be unique. The topic may be old and familiar, but there is always something new to be said about it, or there's always a new way of saying something that had already been said by others. An integral element in the discussion of the plot is the conflict. Now, as Aristotle and so many other great minds in the past had said, drama is supposed to be an imitation of life, supposed to mirror what life is. So, conflicts in drama are also the conflicts of our lives. So, there are conflicts that do not affect us or hardly affect us that we don't really bother thinking about it or uh, wasting our time over it. But there are some that affect us in a nasty sort of way. We have no choice but to confront them with equal, if not greater, nastiness. All right, we have just changed our setting and still continuing the discussion on the plot. Conflict is an integral part of the plot. It is what drives the action into motion. There are 2 levels. One is low-level conflict, and the second one is high-level conflict. Low-level conflicts refer to those that don't normally affect our lives or make our relationships more complicated. These are things that are only a little stressful, but not to the point that it makes our blood boil. Examples of this may be an argument between two sisters on who's going to wash the dishes, or probably you have a cousin who has this annoying habit of correcting your pronunciation. As for high-level conflict, these are those that may be considered as life-changing struggles. They affect our relationships with others and threatens our peace of mind, if not our lives. They have a nasty effect on ourselves. Examples of this can be a lover's quarrel or a love triangle. Obviously, the element of violence is uh, a determining trait of high-level conflict. All right, it's time for your writing practice number 2. And for this, I would like you to specifically focus on integrating conflict into your playwriting, and of course, including stage direction in your dialogues. So I'd like you to write a 9-line dialogue, again with 2 characters only, and you choose one of the following as the source of conflict for your characters. So the first one is a customer haggles with a fish vendor for a lower price. Number 2, two students desperately need to borrow the same book from the library. However, there is only one copy left. Number 3, two friends have a disagreement on whether it is better to use off lotion or Katol to deal with mosquitoes. And the last one, Anna is a staunch Kapamilya, while Clara is a die-hard Kapuso. Now, choose only one of these possible sources of conflicts. And you may start writing your 9-line dialogues now. Now that you have finished writing your scene, I would like you to check your output against this checklist. Does it have a single subject? Does it have a simple plot? Now this is a one-act play, not a teleserye, so don't make it complicated. There are 2 to 3 characters in a scene. Now this is not an absolute, of course. You can add more, but it's always best to minimize the number of characters for a single scene. The next one is that it has a problem that your audience can easily relate with. Then finally, it must be conflict driven. All right, it's time to check your answers from the one that I've asked you to do at the beginning of the lesson. So number 1 is letter B, number 2 is letter C, number 3 is letter D, number 4 E, number 5 A. So uh, did you get all of them? That's good. All right, we've finally reached the end of the lesson. So it's time for your performance task. So what I'd like you to do is to write a scene for a one-act play. To do this, you need to focus on a single subject. You also need to create the place and time setting for your story. And then finally, to include stage directions together with the dialogue. You can do this. I believe in you. Thank you very much.